Hello?
Hi, it's Isaac.
Welcome to The Goal is to Eat, the talk show where visionaries in the world of taste share what it means to feel full. Today, writer and explorer Isaac Rangaswami, the man behind the much-loved Instagram account Cafes Not Cafes and the London-focused newsletter Wooden City, sits on the Togo. So you started Cafes Not Cafes in 2019, and not many people know that around that time you were a copywriter working in tech. And what is it, I would like to know, and I think a lot of people would actually, what is it that propelled you to start your account Cafes Not Cafes? And yeah, what was the catalyst, what was the driver behind it?
Well, I worked very hard to become a copywriter.
Yes.
But I wanted really to write for magazines. So one reason I started the Instagram, I think, is, I finally had something to say. And I think what I had to say was, related to this thing I was doing every weekend, which was wandering around London, going to these old businesses. And, I'd built up quite a big catalogue of images of these old cafes. And I wanted to just find a way to kind of give them free marketing and kind of promote them on Instagram. So that was one objective, was to kind of celebrate these spaces, but there was a more selfish kind of, mission, in that I hoped it would kind of allow me to become a writer.
Which it has.
Yes, it was the dream. But, at that point I was sending lots of pictures to editors and stuff and not getting a reply. So I really thought this is a way I could just kind of write in my spare time and try and hopefully eventually make the transition into being kind of a writer rather than a copywriter. But, I was using the type of commercial writing I was doing already.
Yeah.
I was trying to pitch these places to people because I thought they were cool. There were some very famous cafes like Ipalichi, but I was going to places like Scotty Snack Bar that didn't seem as kind of recognised. So I wanted people to see them in the same way as some of these better known places.
I think it's really nice that it started as this idea of celebration more than anything, with obviously a slightly ulterior motive of wanting to build your own career for yourself, which I think is a very admirable thing to want to do, and just making it happen for yourself. Where do you see that you had your break? What was like a turning point in when Cafes Not Cafes were taken like more seriously, or you were starting to getting replies from your editors that you were pitching to, or when the kind of growth came?
In my mind, it's been a very slow process.
Yeah. I guess 7 years.
Yes, exactly. I think for a very long time, you have kind of spikes of growth. So I think there was moments where it did grow a lot, but I think a big part of it is just kind of posting regularly and just remaining interested in it.
Consistency.
Yeah, I think so. But, like a year in, it wasn't very big. 2 years in, it wasn't very big. And that wasn't it wasn't about growing it. I was just becoming interested in different things. But there were certainly moments, I think, where it did change. I think a big moment for me was probably writing for Vittles. Jonathan definitely opened a lot of doors for me. He was the first person to pay me to write. And, I wanted to be writing for magazines. For him to be the first person to pay me to write with a Substack and then pay me a lot more than what I saw the magazines were paying and process my invoice within days. So immediately, within seconds, I should say. Within seconds for sure.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear because he's very good at that.
Yes, I recently experienced that. And I was like, wow, how effective. Yeah.
I think it's a point of pride for him, But I think that's probably influenced what I've done later on, because I think I always dreamed of writing for magazines, but when I did actually finally get opportunities to do so, I think learning that there's other ways to earn money from writing in the present day has probably shaped what I'm doing now increasingly.
Yeah. I think that's really nice to hear about Jonathan Nunn, to be clear. And Vittles really has changed the game and the landscape of kind of food and city writing. And obviously you yourself have a very successful newsletter called Wooden City, which explores London and lesser known sides of the city as well. What is your overall ambition for Cafes Not Cafes and Wooden City, and how they kind of intersect as well?
I think a big thing for me has always been kind of celebrating the places that currently exist. I think there is a tendency for people to complain about London or suggest it's getting worse or lament the loss of places that have closed.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in saying this place exists, you should go there.
So it's like an optimistic perspective.
Absolutely, but I think there are sometimes people might lament the loss of a certain business, and sometimes I question whether they went to those places while they were still around.
Yeah.
And I think it's better to direct your energy towards the places that are there now,
Yeah.
you know, because they are there.
Yeah.
There's still a large surplus of very interesting places. So I think with the Instagram and also with the Substack now, I'm very interested in kind of quite practical writing that's just straightforwardly about, you know, what a place is like, who goes there, why it's valuable, which was my original kind of philosophy with the Instagram. Now I've found a way to kind of do that on a larger scale with the Substack, but I think my focus has remained kind of just go to these places, you know?
Which is quite pragmatic, really.
Yeah.
Do you find that you move with pragmatism first, as well as there is romance still in your writing?
Yes, I think I have a wistful side that sometimes I try to rein in and try and just be like, you know, this is I don't want to romanticize the place too much when the reality is that, you know, it's just a very functional space. But yes, I'm certainly interested in this kind of utility first writing because I think it appeals to people, and I think sometimes people project certain things on some of these spaces that aren't necessarily true.
Yeah.
Big part of my ambition with the Substack and with the Instagram is I want people from a certain area for it to ring true to them. You know, if I'm writing about a place in East Ham or Peckham or Lewisham, I want a local from those areas to read something I've written and see it as being accurate.
Yeah. Be like, okay, he gets it. This is an accurate portrayal. This is...
Yeah, I think I want to be faithful to the space because, you know, I'm not from London. I can never claim to be from London, and I would hate to, you know, I want to do these places justice, and that's a big part of my objective with my writing. Yeah,
without appropriating them as your own, but also reflecting back what they're trying to achieve without pretense to, I guess.
Absolutely. No, I'm very conscious I'm an outsider in a lot of these spaces. They're not necessarily for me, but I'm very, very interested in all the types of categories of restaurant I'm interested in. Very few of them are, you know, I'm not necessarily from the area where they are, or, you know, if I'm writing about a pub full of elderly Irish people, you know, sometimes I question, should I be the person writing about this space? But I think if you are sensitive to the space and serious about it, I think a big thing for me is, you know, repeat visits. I think there's a lot of people who kind of just like, I don't want to be critical of other types of writing, but for me personally, a big thing is going to a place multiple times.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you get to know it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of food and kind of lifestyle media in London particularly these days is very much like one and done, and that is a truth, you know.
Yeah, and then there's a reason for that kind of writing, and I do that too. So I don't want to shit on it too much, but the way I feel like I can really record my impressions of a space and try lots of different items on the menu, really see what's on the walls, really see who's going there, is going 2, 3, 4, 5 times. It's also from a functional point of view in terms of getting photos. Yeah. That's kind of how it started for me with Instagram. Yeah. If I want to fill a carousel of 10 images, and now it's 20, I like that maximalism in a certain respect. But going on a busy day, you can't really get a good photo of a certain angle. So I like to return, sit somewhere else, see another part of it. You know, when you pay, it's a great opportunity to ask somebody who works there, what is good here? Yes. So then I'll go back and try that. Yes. I love just going places loads.
When you were just saying about visiting somewhere lots of times, I think about 1K, and I'm pretty sure, especially earlier days, more recently, maybe you haven't posted about it as much, but you used to visit very regularly. And I guess thinking about going in off-peak times, making sure that you're seeing a place when it's not super busy. How is it that you plan your routes around the city? How is it that you know when you're going to go to a place and when you're going to try it out? How instinctive is it versus kind of scheduled?
With 1K, it's like a functional thing because it's near where I work most days. And I can't think of a cheaper place to sit down to eat in that part of Zone 1. Yeah. So I just go all the time because I just like it as a functional canteen space where you can still...
I think it's a beautiful room, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it appeals to me because it's similar to a cafe. But from a kind of price standpoint, even with food inflation, it's one of the few places where you can still eat for under £10 in central London, very close to Leicester Square. So I've just ended up going there loads just because I want to avoid prep, and I don't always have a packed lunch, and you can sit down. I think there's a big thing about a lot of cheaper food in central London is usually something you take back to your desk or takeaway. I just love eating in. Yeah. So I've just been there a lot just because it's cheap.
I see, yeah.
And I like the kind of cataloguing element of like having an album on my phone with 100 meals at 1K, you know? In terms of like planning when I visit places, even after 6-7 years of doing this regularly, I'm still figuring that out. I think a big thing for me is trying to still allow enough time for work and seeing this as research. So it's usually on lunch breaks and at weekends. I still find it difficult to justify allocating a whole weekday because it comes at the expense of writing time. So the more playful walks is definitely kind of from like 9 a.m. to 3 or 4 p.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And then socializing afterwards and like, but that's where it started for me before writing. I would just do that as a way to clear my head. You know, I've reached a point where I'm turning my hobby into my job, which is my dream.
Yeah.
But you still are working. I think the difference is sometimes if something is more regimented and planned, is that I'll do it more intensely and visit. You know, I've been to 10 secondhand bookshops in a day once when I was writing about 31.
Yeah.
And I went to 10 secondhand bookshops a day for 3 days until I reached that amount. That was tiring.
Yeah.
But I loved it.
Yeah.
At the weekend, I'll just choose an area and not have a plan and improvise a bit more.
Yeah.
You know, being in Newton Green here, you know, just start at that kind of bottom end of Green Lanes and just walk up and just see what you find. But I always like to have a loose plan.
Yeah.
You know, like when on holiday, you can choose somewhere for lunch.
Totally.
If you just have the one thing in the diary, you're not going to get...
Hangry.
That's a big thing for me. Yeah, I think it's important to have a point A and a point B.
Yeah.
With scope to improvise in between.
Big time.
I think if it felt like a chore, I would decide against doing that visit.
Yeah.
I would do it as long as it has to be fun.
Yeah. It has to be fun. Yeah, prioritizing fun and turning a hobby into a job.
Yes.
I think is what a lot of people want.
Yes. But I spoke to Alex Jackson once, the chef, at an event, and he said something to me, like he was like, find your dream job, you'll work every day of your life. You know, the people usually say you won't work a day in your life.
Yeah.
I think what I have found is the reality of finding a job you really, really love, you still work very hard. And I think work is still work. And you can still, it's thrilling to find a job that you adore, but it still has its own challenges, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I'm really interested in knowing, and I feel like I've spoken to you about this anyway before in the past, about how you organise all of your findings on your travels. And I think it'd be fun if you would shed some light on how you collate and map out all of the places that you've been to and seen across this city, as well as other cities, other places, and how you kind of keep track of everything you're seeing and how you're feeling about all of them too.
There isn't really a system. That's the thing. It's kind of like, if something I find interesting that I want to start looking for, I'll just make an album with that name. And if I see a thing, I'll take a photo of it and put that in the album. But the way that, you know, the iPhone gallery works is that the most recently added to album goes to the top. So I find that if I'm seeing a certain thing like ghost signs or public notices or wooden manhole covers or something, if I'm attuned to a certain thing, you know, that bucket will fill up quite quickly. And I know that it's kind of good material because I'm kind of playing with the contents quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm seeing a lot of that interests me. But the kind of other side of that is there's a lot of kind of aborted albums with just like one image.
Yes,
you know,
one time.
Yeah, they're just at the bottom of the list and I haven't seen them in ages because and then I kind of remember that they exist.
Yeah.
But
so then it becomes like a recency bias. So then you're almost
basically
like looking for the thing.
And I don't, but then connected to that, sometimes years might pass and then I'll see something that relates to an album and I can search it and fill it in. So there's ones that I've been filling for years and years, you know, that eventually get to a point where I feel like I could share them. And that's quite satisfying to have some images. You know, I've got new phones sometimes between some of the images. So you can see the image quality increase or deteriorate or like, but I'll show you
Can we have a look?
Yeah. This is one I'm quite interested in at the moment, which is AI photos of signage.
Wow.
And I'm wondering if people will be nostalgic for these in 20 years' time. You know, because they are representative of now, but they're quite horrible, obviously.
And I wonder if some of them are even that clear that they're AI. That could just look like a very Photoshopped.
That's the problem now. You don't even know what's real or not. You know? But like, this one is terrible.
Bad graphic design as well.
This one says supporting creatives. You know,
Lovely.
Which is just astonishing. That it's like, you know, I've just got loads of. I don't know. Do you want to take a look? Yeah.
Every time I've eaten at 1K. On my own since December 2021, a nice lengthy album title.
Yes, but it's close to 100 now.
Amazing, yeah. 97.
Yeah.
Oh, the eclair that I've seen recently.
Yes.
Another ghost sign post. Love this, ghost signs.
Yes, and this is still playing with it. You know, I see these everywhere. But I don't really know what to do. There's a lot of stuff on here I don't really know what to do with.
Just seeing how much kind of joy there is in this lack of structure and how much joy there is in finding those moments that can then, years later, reignite something. What is it about what you do and having built this dream job for yourself that fulfills you most? And for you, what is it to feel full?
I think a lot of people in creative jobs are kind of, I think you learn over time that you don't always get that sense of completion. And I think for a while, you know, when I would publish something or finish a project, I thought that would make me feel fulfilled.
Yes.
But I think going back to what you're saying about the sense of joy in kind of discovering different things and not having that many plans, I think that's probably the thing that makes me feel fulfilled, is the opportunity to constantly try different things. I think I get a lot of joy from kind of expanding beyond the constraints I've built. Mm-hmm. I quite like branching out into different subject areas. You know, I haven't posted about a calf on my Instagram in a year and a half, and even when I did, it was every other post.
Yeah.
You know, at the moment I'm writing more about shops and pubs and other types of spaces. Mm. So I think having the opportunity to constantly be kind of making up as I go along is what I really like.
Experimenting.
Yeah. I think my ambition was to just be a writer.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think what makes me feel full is just finally kind of that being my job.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily, I think going back to what we were saying about work too, and making sure you get the right balance of work and play with these things, is I don't necessarily want to derive all of my personal identity from, you know, this thing that is now work.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying discovering other ways to relax now because I've, you know.
Yeah, you made the thing that did.
Yeah, and
before.
Often it is just the same thing done in a looser way.
Yes.
But I think if I think about what really fulfills me, it's certainly that, you know, I'm happy in my work, but also having other things that just make me happy that aren't work.
Yeah.
I think is a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
but that was confusing. I can see. But